We're rolling.
Now.
Take two. Good afternoon. It's Tuesday, April 1st, 2025. It's 4 o'clock, and this is the regular meeting of the Jefferson Public Utility District Board of Commissioners. My name is Jeff Randall. I am president of the board, and I'm calling this meeting to order. Jefferson PUD will be offering both virtual online meetings as well as in-person meetings unless advance notice is provided. Online participant audio will be muted upon entry. Please unmute at the appropriate time to speak. And if you're calling in, use *6 to mute and unmute and *9 to raise a hand to request to speak. Let's do a roll call. My name is Jeff Randall. I am Commissioner for District 1 and President of the board.
Kenneth Collins, Commissioner District 2.
Dan Tupper, Commissioner for District 3.
Okay, we're all present. We have our agenda in front of us. Do we have any changes to this agenda? Nope.
You gonna pull?
Oh, yes, I'm gonna pull the MRSC item 8.
That one just can't manage to stay on the agenda, can it?
Can't stay on the agenda.
It's off again. Okay. So 8.2, we're going to pull the MRSC roster. No other changes. Can I have a motion to accept the agenda as modified?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor of approving the modified agenda, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Aye. Okay. Next, we have public comment. The public comment period allows members of the public to comment limited to 3 minutes each on any items not specifically listed on the agenda or for items listed on the consent agenda. Prior to any public comment, members of the public must first be recognized by me and are not permitted to disrupt, disturb, or otherwise impede the orderly conduct and fair progress of the commission's meeting. After an initial warning, individuals who intentionally violate these guidelines through actual disruption of the commission meeting will be dropped from the meeting. Okay. So do we have anybody that wants to comment on things not on the agenda or on consent agenda? Leo.
I just wanted to say that I didn't make it to, obviously, to the last meeting. Curtis, though, I believe, commented on the transport and connectivity thing. And I just wanted to say, I think he was pretty much spot on because, you know, so the way the internet is nowadays and how it's evolved that, you know, a lot of times, you know, there are different ways of getting connectivity that you want, you know, transport wise back to other places. And the reason why we do it this way or choose to do it this way is basically for efficiency. It's efficient, you know, we could do it for much less. So, you know, I could literally buy an internet pay it $40 for an internet connection, do the same exact thing. It's just this way it's more efficient and it just, I can't remember exactly what I was going to say. There were 3 points to it. Efficiency was one of them. Ease was another. And, you know, paying $150 a month, or in some cases, some PUDs charge $75 or $100, or in your case, $150 a month. You know, it's worth paying the extra money for that ease and efficiency, you know, then like, but I could just literally pay somebody else $40 to do the same exact thing.
Okay. Thank you for your comment. And I'm glad that you acknowledged Curtis, and I had a meeting with him and went really great. And I think he's a wonderful addition to our staff. And we will be talking more about the transport rates.
The other thing is it's simple.
Simple. Okay. Do we have any other comments? I see a hand up. Is that you, Roger? If it is, go ahead.
Yes, sir. I had a question about capacity fees. Why did it take? Yeah. Why did it take 18 months to enact the capacity fees? If what the rate consultant said is true, that that's worth $400,000 a year, we left $600,000 on the table. I know that we were waiting for the hospital to get a pass, but it just doesn't make sense to pass up that much money for the tens of thousands of dollars we would have gotten from the hospital. Is there somebody else in the too big to pay list that we were waiting on? It just doesn't make sense to me because you're arguing in good faith we really need that, and then you left all that money on the table. How is that managed? And my question again is, why did it take 18 months to enact that. And I'm curious about what the commissioner's understanding of that is. Thanks.
Okay, and if staff's comfortable, maybe we could, during management and staff report, maybe just go back and touch on the timing of capacity fees, and I don't know what
I was
negotiation.
actually more concerned about what their perception of it was.
Right, right. And asking staff to summarize it and, any discussions with the hospital or any improvements that they did that will help us. And then, of course, we can comment on your question too. Thanks, Roger. Anybody else? Bill.
Bill Stover, just one, my question's related to some data that's in the, plan it's already on the agenda, so, but I'm looking for some more current data, so do you want to ask now or wait till we get to there?
If it's on the agenda, wait until we get to the agenda.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else?
I had one more thing.
Go ahead.
Real quick. So, me and some other of the ISPs have been talking, and according to RCW 5416-340, if we do not believe the rates are non-discriminatory and preferential, we can basically that we can ask you for a rate study to be done. We'd like a rate study.
Well, whatever rights you have, you have. I will not comment on that. So
Right, I'm just saying, so
sure.
I mean, it says we have the right to a rate study.
Interesting. Okay. All right.
So are you asking that be done?
Yes, we are asking that that be done.
You repeat the RCW, Leo?
Yeah.
So Joel can get it.
416-340. It's simply states that a wholesale provider on the open access network can ask for a rate study to be done if we don't think that.
So Joel, when we're in manager and staff reports, if you could just weigh in on that, just so we can know what we know today with Leo's request on that. If you have any knowledge or interpretation on that, if something more formal is needed, if a request in writing needs to be provided, or whatever you can tell us. So
Sure.
So I think we are at, my screen keeps going blank on me. Give me a second here. Got my power saver on, so it doesn't stay up very long. We are at manager and staff reports.
Hey, well,
Now, okay.
so Will's gonna bring up a picture. Maybe.
Maybe.
There we go. So this weekend, we had family, flew into Seattle. This is the cherry blossoms at University of Washington. This is a plug for where we live. It's one of the many things you can do if you live in our area. You can see how busy it was on a Saturday. It was still a little bit cool. You can see everybody wearing jackets, but just a plug for the cherry blossoms at the University of Washington. Beautiful. Everybody should take some time and do some of these things around here.
So you were there, or
Yeah.
who? Okay,
Yeah,
nice.
Saturday. This was Saturday about noon.
Mhm.
You're wearing your Cougar Crimson?
My wife didn't think that was a good idea. Again, this is our anniversary. We're 12 years in the utility business. We appreciate everything that everybody's done for the utility, the commissioners, Don McDaniel, Joel, all of staff here. A big thanks to everything that's been done by you all, and we appreciate it. Next on the item, we have talked to the commissioners. We hired a wastewater treatment plant operator. And Jose is gonna introduce our newest employee, Joy.
So to introduce Joey Barkle. He is our new wastewater treatment plant operator. He is over here from Moses Lake.
Oh, fellow Grant Countyan. Well, Joey, welcome. So Joey's gonna be our permanent, okay. And you get to work with the gentleman is there another fellow who's helping set up
Helping with
the system who used to be at Port Gamble? Okay,
Greg, I haven't met him yet.
okay. Well, welcome to the community and thank you for being the guy to help run our new toy.
Welcome aboard, Joy.
Welcome.
Okay, next.
Jimmy is gonna talk about Chimicum Creek Bridge project and the water line relocation. He's been working on that since Sam left. Sam worked on it for a couple years before that. Jimmy has an update for us today.
Big update.
And tell us again, sorry, what system this is or what piece of infrastructure?
This is the WashDOT Chimicum Creek Fish Bearing
Oh,
project.
yeah.
So they're gonna be replacing the I don't know how big the culvert in there now, but they're gonna be putting a big concrete box culvert, kind of like
Mhm.
at Swansonville.
Mm-hmm.
And several years in the making, start, don't know, start. But it's a go now. Construction will start in mid-June and go through for a couple months. The big part for us, mid-June, will be constructing a temporary 10-inch water main for the project. So we can maintain proper fire flow during construction. We went back and forth with HDR if we're gonna want to do it, but giving us our driest point of the season, let's keep fire flow going. So that'll be it. The design builder for WashDOT is Kiewit, and we've received a contract from Kiewit for $563,000 to do all the construction for us. Our plan is at the next April 15th BOC meeting to bring forth a resolution authorizing Kevin to enter an agreement and sign the contract with Kiewit. Proceed with construction. So any questions?
Yeah, and do we have an estimate for the costs to us for our part of this thing that nobody else is gonna pay for?
That is the.
That is
What, I'm sorry, how much is it again?
563,000.
Over $500,000, yeah.
So yeah, and the culvert replacement thing that we're working on that at Waputa, trying to figure out if we can get some money somehow, get DOT to put in for federal money, if there's any federal money available. This has been a struggle for 2 or 3 years now, so hopefully we can minimize that impact of that cost, but it remains to be seen if there'll be any money for us or not. So one quick question for you, Jimmy, and maybe you said it and maybe I missed it. So is the water line replacement going to be a bore? Is it going to be overland? What exactly with HDPE? What exactly is the bypass going to be?
Excellent question. So the temporary water line will be a 10-inch HDP kind of on the edge of the project boundary. And the permanent will be a 10-inch ductile iron attached to the side of the culvert.
Okay.
HDR went through and did cost estimates on both approaches, and they're almost a wash. So it's
Okay.
One other quick question for staff on this too, and obviously Kevin alluded that, we had more than one engineer work on this over the course of time. This is the third or fourth time it was engineered. Does that cost represent just the last iteration of engineering and construction, or does it take into account the other 2 or 3 engineering circumstances we had to deal with the state before that? So is this really a bigger cost than just that amount?
there's a bigger cost in that amount. So that engineering to date is right around 17,000. And I think that's through all the iterations. For the final engineering, HDR estimated another 10, so just shy of $30,000 for engineering. And a big portion of that is the start, stop.
Yeah. Are we aware of any other, we had the Marrowstone Island one, now we've got this one. Are we aware of any other big DOT things that may
The next
come our way?
cycle ones we missed out, where they're gonna be in Jefferson County, but we don't have any infrastructure there. So
Okay.
I don't know of anything further, I'm sure there'll
Okay,
be something
well,
coming along.
it's not a good thing. I mean, it's a good thing for the habitat and everything, but it's not a good thing for our budget.
Talking to friends that work at Grays Harbor, we're the lucky ones.
Yeah, they have so many rivers and things down there. And the thing that Dan alluded to was a requirement to make DOT when they're getting federal funds to include utility relocates. But if it's, I don't know if this is federally funded, for example, and if it's not, then we wouldn't get that probably anyway. But
I'm not sure their funding source. I know it's through the suit that they lost several years ago.
yeah, yeah. Well, thank you for the update.
And then outside the water, the electric is fairly simple from a standpoint. We're gonna dead end the line on both sides of it and drop out the line while they do their work and then put the line back up. So
Okay.
we can do that with in-house crews and nothing too out of the ordinary.
Okay.
And not to rip the Band-Aid off of old wounds, but that's also where the plow through of our fiber, well, that wasn't a plow through, where our fiber got broken. Is that not going to be an issue this time through that area? Is our fiber going to be secured from damage? I know that's not, no, nothing's 100% ever, but I'm just curious if our,
Said Murphy will get involved when he wants to.
yeah,
But I talked to Jackson about it, and I guess when we repaired the line, he said, I think we went 22 feet deep. So it sounds like we're out of it, but you never know when they drive a sheet pile and doesn't go.
yeah, I just was curious about the as-built on whatever transpired on repairing that, or whatever, if we're, how accurate we are that they're not going to do something that's going to interfere with our fiber again.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I wasn't there during the repair of the fiber.
Shouldn't be an issue. Famous last words.
All right. Please continue, Kevin.
There with Lumen, Astound as well.
Okay, we have finished our RUS Form 7. Its requirement had to be completed yesterday. Mike Bailey's gonna give us an update on the Form 7 and our responsibilities there.
Okay.
So yeah, as of yesterday morning, we did submit the RUS Form 7, which is meets our loan obligations. It's due by March 31st of every year for the previous year. We have our audit report finalized and finished. I sent it to the commissioners with that, and also our USDA rule development Form 442 and 443 or 442-3. Those have all been, so we met all of our loan obligations and have gotten everything turned in that we were supposed to by the deadline. So the next deadline is we just have to submit everything to the state by May 30th this year.
Okay. All right. Kevin?
The last piece is my schedule. I am going to go to the NOAANET meeting on Wednesday in person. Curtis is going to join us there. I don't know if you're.
I'm
on
zooming
person.
because I'm single dadding right
Yeah.
now, so can't go.
So I am going to be remote Monday, Tuesday. I'll be back Wednesday after the NOAANET meeting here Thursday, Friday. Most of my meetings on Monday and Tuesday are Zoom meetings anyway, so I will be there. And then we are going to take a small group of us to the Waputa meetings the following weeks. So
Okay. All right.
And
Could you
that's
touch
it.
on the capacity fee issue too? So I know we started on it and it took us a while to implement it. When it remind us of when if you recall, when we first implemented and started collecting the capacity fees?
I can bring all that information up for the next week or next meeting. The one thing that was kind of implied is that we held back till the hospital wouldn't have to pay that. That's not true. And I'll take responsibility here, but it took us a while to work with FCS to get a presentation to the board. And then after that, it took several reiterations to get to where staff was comfortable and the board was comfortable moving it forward. We did not delay because of any construction or anything like that. It just, through the public process of bringing it through the commission and staff and FCS helping, some of this stuff just takes a while. There's not a lot of PUDs doing capacity fees, so we.
I think we're really the first, aren't we?
No, there's a couple.
Oh, okay.
First to go with the dollars we're talking about.
Okay.
That was the biggie. You know, some of the others have very minimal capacity fees.
They call them impact fees. in
Or
other places.
impact. I'm gonna say a lot of it was just due diligent, getting it out to the public, talking to people.
Yeah.
But it did take us a long time, but you know, we went as quick as we could.
Well, and how long had we been talking to the hospital? I mean, they've been working on that project for a really long
A
time
long time.
too. So, I mean, they first talked to us well before we probably were even starting to talk about
Yeah.
capacity fees.
There was no, like I say, no hold off because of that or any project whatsoever.
Are they, I'm sorry, Dan, let me
Okay.
ask one more. Are they putting in any infrastructure that will help us in the area or not really?
Not on this phase.
Okay.
The first phase that came out towards Sheridan Street,
Mm-hmm.
we worked in conjunction and made a lot of changes at that time, but
That
this
helped
phase-
us.
That helped us. This phase, it really didn't help us.
Okay, and we do have a provision in there, at least I think it's in there, that large or that public projects can kind of do work in lieu that they're doing that's benefiting our infrastructure. I think
Correct.
we can credit that. Okay, I'll stop talking. Dan.
Yeah, that's part of my recollection was that was part of the determination is how we were going to deal with that and low income
Yeah.
housing and things like that. And ultimately what impact this would have on new house construction or construction of multifamily or low income multifamily type units. So it got drug out longer and ultimately my recollection was the board wanted to go with lower rates than what was recommended. I would have liked to seen this happen faster because I think we needed the revenue and it was justified. It took longer than anticipated and we came in way under what the consultant recommended. So that was, looking at how to minimize the impacts to the community ultimately. I don't like it when I won't call it ignore, but we water down what consultants tell us we need to do for what it is we're looking at. And this was another case where we did that. We came in a lot lower than what was recommended.
And I guess, Roger, speaking for myself, there was a fair number of people who were just really questioning and pushing back on us, our citizens, our customers, who were questioning why we should be doing this and were opposed to it. So we had some opposition. We had to kind of do a fair amount of education for the challenges we're having with infrastructure and that this would be a valuable new tool and that growth should help pay for growth. And from my perspective, I felt like our job as commissioners was to get the policy right and not adopt it until it was right. And then in terms of who's already made it through the door and who didn't make it through the door on time and has to be the first one to pay, that's just the chips fall where they fall. And our job is to get the policy right. And which car made it past the line with the checkered flag and which one is second place and has to pay. That's not our job to make that call. I don't know if Ken, if you have anything to add.
Yeah. I thought it was a complicated issue and that it needed to be revisited a number of times, making a significant policy change. I think it's incumbent on us to consider very carefully the immediate consequences and to be on the alert for unintended consequences. I think there was a lot of concern about whether it would retard development because it would add costs and what would be the impact on people who could who want to build here but are on a really limited budget. And it's no surprise to anyone that there's a housing shortage here. So I'm glad we gave it the kind of consideration that it required.
Okay.
I certainly was not aware of any slowdown in order to accommodate any special interests. That simply is incorrect.
Yeah. Okay.
Question on the capacity thing. So the capacity charges are based on capacity. So if I have, which I do, property right now that 1 meter serves 3 units on 1 meter, since my capacity is not changed, and I'm gonna get that split into 3 separate meters. So each unit is metered separately. So my capacity hasn't changed, so I won't have to pay the capacity charge, right?
You
Still
will
the
have
same,
to pay the capacity charge.
even though my capacity hasn't changed from what I'm already.
Leo, I'm going to suggest if you could talk offline to
Yeah.
Kevin about that one. And if there's an issue that needs to be discussed, please bring it back. But yeah, if you could talk outside the meeting. Okay. So just make sure he's got all the facts and his information to use correct. It may not be the best for him. Okay. I think we're at commissioner reports now. Commissioner
Oh,
Carl. Sorry. Did you have something else?
No, but on my notes, you asked Joel to talk about.
Oh, I did. Thank you. Yeah. Joel, are you able to say anything at all in response to what
Yeah,
Leo brought up?
all I can say is that the statute that is cited has a process, and it's not really up to us to tell folks how to do this. So, Leo's free to avail himself of what process there is.
Okay, I guess, do you feel like his request today satisfies the process, or is that something you have to look at more?
I would have to look at it more, and even if I knew the answer, I wouldn't answer that.
Okay. All right, leaves us in a little bit of.
I represent the PUD. I don't represent,
You can't give
Leo
legal
and
advice to
his,
Leo.
yeah, just not my role.
Okay, I guess I'm asking you as a commissioner for the PUD.
And I'll be happy to advise you when I have
Okay.
a more understanding of the statute.
Okay. Well, all I'll say is if it says something about a rate study, the only conversation I've had on that was been with Angela Bennett of Kitsap, and what she said is there's not enough information out there for these guys to do rate studies, and they were able to do a revenue study, but her comment was there's not even enough data out there to do rate studies yet. So anyway, we're not formally taking any action on that. You've made a comment. We'll see where it goes. Okay. Commissioner reports, Commissioner Collins, can you go first?
It will be a very brief report. So the 20th and the 21st, I remotely attended the WAPUTA meetings, including on the 21st, a meeting of the awards committee. And I'll probably be doing the presentation at the annual conference on part of that. On the 25th, I met with the general manager, met again with the general manager on the 31st, and we'll meet on the 7th with the general manager. So I promised you a brief report, and
Wow, there you go.
However,
25 words or less.
yes. Although I have to say that redoing an entire house has immeasurably complicated my life.
Thank you. Dan?
Well, I had a full dance card in March, and April's
Okay.
going to be just as bad. So I'll balance this out here.
Fine.
So I attended the Waputa Commissioner Education and Roundtable meeting on March 19th. There was a great discussion by commissioners and on different approaches and experiences with hiring a general manager from within the utility or enlisting an outside search firm. That was very interesting discussion, and some of what we're doing lines up with what other people have done, and some of it doesn't. So I could spend all day talking about that discussion. So. But it was interesting. Few things I picked out of that I'll keep in mind as we move forward. It was also a Telecom 101 basic telecom by Kitsap PUD, because again, this is commissioner education, but I mean, there's things even the veteran commissioners learn from these, but this is to give everybody these presentations to give new commissioners a basic understanding of the different utilities that we all work with. Mason 3 PUD gave presentations on Energy 101 and budget fundamentals. Scott Sims from PPC explained the role of PPC and their power advocacy that they perform for nearly 100 members around the region. Clark Halverson gave a presentation explaining the tools available to water utilities that are members of WASWOOD. I think our water department's familiar with that. It's Washington Association of Sewer and Water Districts. To finish off the session, representatives from the Public Disclosure Commission talked about reporting requirements for elected officials. Just like tax day, April 15th for your F1s, for those who are elected. That's your financial report. I accompanied PUD commissioners and staff to a House Energy and Environment hearing on March 20th. We were there in support of a bill that Waputa had crafted, SB 5445, which is legislation to help PUDs fund local distributed energy projects through a larger credit that is offered to utilities through the Energy Independence Act, through the use of renewable energy credits that are primarily used to purchase out-of-state energy. So this would make it where you could use those to do projects in your own district rather than going out and buying outside energy. That's the crux to what that bill does. Later that day, I attended the Waputa committee meetings. At the power lunch, the guest speaker was former BPA Administrator Randy Hardy. He talked about the potential impact of the Clean Energy Transformation Act on investor-owned utility rates, and how, and this was his opinions and data that he's seeing, and that how it may lead to CETA needing to be revised or revisited in the next 4 or 5 years because of the impact it's going to have on the IOUs in particular, investor-owned utilities. He also talked about the real cost of renewables being higher than touted when you figure in the final cost of delivering the power to load. So that's a transmission component and other things that go along with getting the power from the source to the load. He gave several examples of that power being around 75 megawatt and higher power, that being the renewable power. Again, hard to put it into context without giving the whole talk that he gave, but I imagine you guys kind of understand what he was talking about there. May not agree, but that was his point. That evening, Waputa hosted a reception at the Capitol where Waputa members spoke with legislators about public utility needs and legislation that's still working at that time was still working its way through the legislature. There were also discussions on the state budget and funding needs and opportunities for utilities. I attended the Waputa Board of Directors meeting on March 21st. The Board of Directors discussed a plan for an employee. I think both of you might have been on that meeting. Were you both on that Board of Directors meeting? I can't remember. So this was about the plan that was for employee benefit buyout. This was to buy out their medical assistance after they retire. There was that's being discontinued, and there's some of the employees the plan was made to buy them out, similar to what happened at NOAA with the retirement, kind of a similar type of a thing. Anyhow, it puts the financial position of the association in a better place. There's advantages for the employees to take this. So that went through, that was voted on and approved. And then a reminder again, Ken.
So Dan, how many people did that actually apply to?
I think there's 8. And I think 2 of them are retired already. And then there were 2, the newer employees that weren't qualified because the project or the program wasn't offered to them. So there's 8 total. And there's it's not known yet whether any or all will take advantage of the buyout. So it's conceivable the association could still continue on grandfathered having to make these payments for these employees clear on through. But it helps the yearly budget. It cuts Waputa's budget. And again, it's funded right now, but it's building. So it's getting to be a bigger,
very unusual benefit.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So again, that was some cleanup on aisle 9 for the association, really getting a better financial position. And so there was a lot of discussion about it, but it's a good move. Scott Wilson, let me see. Yeah, Scott Wilson from BPA was there and reported on a good chunk of their employees have been reinstated at BPA. But there's still going to be probably a couple hundred that took the retirement, the fork in the road it was called, I think. I don't know if they've changed the description of it, but they took the early buyout and went ahead and retired. In the Energy Northwest report, it was stated that the member reps will need to vote on the new SMR project. That's a small modular reactor project. And each utility will, I think I talked about this once already, maybe Jeff's already familiar with it too, and that each utility will need to provide a resolution stating that position. I don't know what the timeline is yet, but there's an Energy Northwest meeting this month. So that's the SMR project. And that also has to go through the legislature for approval as well, as they continue on with the timeline to complete that small modular reactor. I attended the Waputa legislative update via Zoom on March 27th. I listened in on the Energy Northwest Extended Power Uprate presentation later that morning. BPA gave a report during that EPU uprate on their work towards support of the EPU from a tier 1 energy and system capacity point of view or need. Primarily, they're approaching this as a firm power need and potential secondary revenues. That's what how BPA is looking at this uprate, is what it'll do for the system and for the grid, and how BPA is looking at it will impact them and their energy sales, basically, and the amount of capacity that is on the system. Let's see, what else was in that? Energy Northwest estimates about 525 million to 670 million investment for that project to start generating by 2031. Energy Northwest made the case for the financial viability of the project in their part of the presentation. And my understanding is there's going to be a vote at the April Energy Northwest meeting for approval to move forward with the uprate project. So my intent is to vote in favor of that. So if there's any discussion from you guys on that project, we should probably have it now. We have a meeting on the 15th. I'm going to be remote for that meeting.
Yeah, the only concern I have on the uprate is it's kind of what John, the president of the board, brought up, that it's a big project and there's a lot of things that can go wrong when you get into this really old nuclear power plant and do this kind of work. So it seems like they're trying to do their due diligence on unanticipated issues, and they're trying to line up all the other maintenance things that can happen at the same time. But and it seems like, and BPA has agreed to buy the power, it seems like. So it seems like we're protected.
Yeah, it covers some bases, like you said, there's other parts, other projects that they can tie into this to help, I think, with their efficiency and upgrading, components and things like that.
It may not, I don't think it's going to go as smooth as they hope, but
Does anything ever go?
But at the same time, I don't think it's going to be something that's going to, it may just cost a bit more, but it seems like there's a purchaser for the power and others have been through it. So it may be a little bumpy.
Yeah, and I forget, is there 92 total across the country?
There's quite a
nuclear
few
plants,
yeah.
And they're only like 4 or 5, including Energy Northwest, that haven't done this type of,
yeah.
my understanding, haven't done this type. Again, a lot of this is new to me, but
yeah,
that they haven't done this already.
So I don't have any objections to you supporting it.
Just giving you the heads up. I
Appreciate that.
attended the joint Waputa quarterly water meeting with the Washington Water Utilities Council, the WUC, and Olympia. This is the first time that Waputa has had a joint meeting with that organization. And that was on March 28th. One of the discussions during the Waputa Roundtable, which was the first half of the meeting was Waputa, and then the second half was the WUC meeting. And utilities, Waputa Roundtable was about the different PUDs, how different PUDs deal with policies or how they make their decisions on the placing of fire hydrants. And there was a broad swath of some utilities have policies in place. Some, just determine it by, their infrastructure dictates a lot of it. As our team could tell you, if you don't have enough pressure, flow, volume, whatever, fire flow, if it's not there, it could be a lot of money to get the right kind of lines in place to get the volume and the flow that you need to have a hydrant. So anyhow, that was an interesting discussion. I think that's one that's going to come up more and more because of the wildfire situation and droughts and things like that. So that's one we should probably.
Like people expect fire hydrants and we don't always.
Yeah, well, we've had that discussion in this meeting, I know, in the last year or so. So again, that's something we should probably, keep on our list of things that are on a warm burner, not a hot burner, but at the moment, but it's something we should not lose track of. That's a place that we might have to look at our policy or creating a policy. What else came up with that? A representative from the Public Works Board talked about negative impacts to the Public Works Board assistance account. It's going to happen because of the Senate budget and the House budget. Neither one of them was good options. And I've seen today that the Senate budget is looking worse and worse all the time. It kind of sounded like, and it was the better of the two options at the point this meeting took place. Bottom line is the House budget, that's a $400 million $400 million revolving account that we borrow money and we pay back, so they get interest and things like that, and appropriations from the state come in and out. But anyhow, the state does this not every biennium, but this time around, they're looking to go in and sweep that money out of there, and it's going to reduce that fund by $288 million. And that's money we need for water projects, and primarily. You know, they do broadband, but broadband is getting, you know, in the House budget, broadband's getting 280 million thrown at it for the bead match. So do the math. So, you know, they're moving monies around and trying to get their budget squared away, but it's robbing Peter to pay Paul at the end of the day, because our water systems in the state are going to suffer, I think, the way this is going to go. So we'll see how it plays out. Thanks to Jose Escalera for giving our report during the water roundtable. Jose and I met with some of the members of the WOC afterwards, and they told us how we might be able to join their group if we were so inclined. And I met with General Manager Street and Curtis Fry on Monday, the 31st of March. I'm going to attend the PPC members forum virtually on the 2nd, and then their next meeting on the 3rd for their executive committee. I'll attend the Jefferson County. I think there's a Jefferson County Fire Chiefs meeting. I haven't seen anything come out yet, but normally their normal time of the month is the first Monday in the month. So I'm gonna attend to that if it comes up. That's the Fire Chiefs meeting. I might attend the NOAA Net meeting on April 9th. I met with Kevin Street on April 11th. And I'll be remote for our board meeting in April virtually, because I'm going to, again, go to Energy Northwest in Tri-Cities. So it makes sense to go early that Tuesday and zoom in from there for that early Wednesday start. So that's my report.
So, Dan, I just want to touch on something you brought up, and I did listen to the Energy Northwest meeting, although they went to a different committee format, and the technology to zoom in I couldn't get into some of the meetings.
It was
a mess.
spotty too. I couldn't hear some of it off and on. So it's going to be a work in progress, I think.
So this formal action by the board of Energy Northwest to approve the next phase of the small modular nuke, which then requires some action by members, I think it's going to be really important for them to show how Energy Northwest and the members and the public is protected from cost overruns or anything else that could happen with this project. And my understanding is the people who are going to take the power are taking all the financial risk and bearing all the financial risk. And really, there's only upside for Energy Northwest, because they're basically selling services to help this project along and may operate it or be involved in the operation. So, but as they're talking about that formal action and wanting us to adopt resolutions, I think it's really important to keep bringing that up, that they're showing us how we're protected from any cost overruns on these projects. So,
yeah, I hear members asking that pretty regularly of the executive board as well as of the board of directors. So I don't think there'll be any shortage of questions along that line. Nobody wants to see the whoops of the.
I mean, it really ought to be in the whereas of the resolution. Whereas, you know, these folks are the ones paying for this thing.
Yeah, and then again, the other part of it too is, like you stated, you know, the outside, the private entity that's going to take the power to begin with. You know, they're going to do this. It's modular. Was it 320? It's 4 units of 80 megawatts each. And they, you know, they're upfront to get. So I think there's an incentive for them to make sure that money keeps coming to Energy Northwest to keep the project moving. So, but you're right. As it progresses over the course of the next decade, you know, we'll have to keep track.
Okay.
So has that power already been committed?
Some of it has. My understanding, Jeff been around a little longer, they've been having discussion a long time, is that there will come a point here where each of the members of Energy Northwest can, quote unquote, buy in for a share of the power. But this first one is primarily, I think it's half of the power. Was it half or more was going to the private entity that's funding it, or was it the whole thing? I can't remember.
I think Amazon's pretty much getting all of it. And I think other entities have options to buy into smaller percentages, like I think PSE kicked in some money. So I think they might have an option. And as you said, some of the member utilities could, but it also could be 100% Amazon.
Yeah. So again, but BPA is following this too, because it's got to be, you know, power's got to get into the grid. So BPA will be involved along the way. And as I said earlier in my one report, there was BPA is looking at these different things, the EPU and at the small modular and how to integrate it into their integrated plan. So, and it looks like they're on board with it too. So again, that's just another component of keeping costs in place. Bonneville will be looking at what it's going to make cost of their power it ultimately be as well. So,
Okay, I'm going to try and get through mine quickly. So on the 19th, I had meetings with Kevin Street, Don McDaniel, and Cindy Brooks, and the topic of a number of those conversations was the future of and then I was part of the EDC committee that reviewed the executive director applicants, kind of going through those on which ones they wanted to first interview. And then on the 20th and 21st, I did listen into some of the Waputa meetings, noted that sweep of the Public Works Trust Fund thing, which is, I only had it as 100 million, so it's over more than that.
well,
Wow.
it's been a moving target, but I think it
Okay.
ended up at 288 was the last I heard. And that was in the House budget. The
Yeah.
Senate budget was 120 million,
Yeah.
but they keep adding ornaments on the Christmas tree and
Such a-
talking about how they're
yeah.
going to move the monies and well, we'll pay you back in a year now. And it's
Yeah.
like, you know,
They got off of that for a while, and it's a bummer they're going back there. Had a phone call with John Morrow to talk again about the future of the EDC, and these conversations about it potentially going under the port.
Mhm.
So that's kind of being talked about. I'm trying to find out a little bit more what people are thinking. Had a really great meeting with our staff, Jackson and Curtis, to learn about our PUD fiber network. They were awesome, really helpful. On the 25th, talked to Monica McHager, who's the city rep to the EDC, and Aaron Berg, and Kevin Street. And we talked about the port projects that the PUD is going to be participating in my district. And I talked to Monica about the future of the EDC. On the 26th and 27th, listened to the Energy Northwest board meetings that I could catch. On the 27th, the NODC met, and we learned about how the tribes in Clallam County are now working with Habitat for Humanity to increase affordable housing for tribal members on tribal lands. On the 28th, met with a couple of our customers who sent an email to all three of us with a question about their solar array. So I went down and talked to those guys, and very nice folks, and hopefully get them squared away with their options. They had a system put in by a Seattle installer who isn't supporting it anymore. So wanted to help them. And then earlier today, I talked to Greg Brotherton also about the future of the EDC, county commissioner. So looking ahead on the 3rd, the EDC is going to formally discuss the interviews they've had so far for the executive director, decide what to do. On the 4th, I think there's a PNUC meeting that I can zoom into. At least I thought I had it on my calendar. Planning to zoom into that. On the 8th, I've got a meeting with John Morrow, Aaron Berg, and Mark Knudsen, who's one of the citizen board members on the EDC, to again talk about this port option. What could it look like if it's viable at all? And then on the 9th, I'm going to zoom into Noanet board meeting. And then the 14th through the 19th, I'm going to be in Chicago for spring break. So like Dan, I'm going to zoom into our board meeting that we have then. And that is my report.
Jeff.
Yeah.
Going back to EDC,
Mm-hmm.
There was a grant that was funneled through,
NODC, I think.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, that was the primary grant recipient, and then
Mhm.
that had to be funneled through another party
Mhm.
before reaching the EDC.
Mm-hmm.
Has that money ever arrived?
I think the answer is no. And I heard conversations about that at 2 levels. One was at the NODC, and I think the NODC was doing everything they could by changing the language of the grant to take out all the bad words that the federal government no longer likes. And what I was hearing from Cindy Brooks was real concern that it's still a question. It's still a question of, is the EDC going to get that money? And she was pretty alarmed by everything going on. I think she was less inclined to take away, the bad words of things like diversity and things like
Yes,
that out of,
yes.
because it's all over the EDC
Mhm.
website right now. So I haven't pushed on that one yet, because she's already feeling, I think, pretty sensitive about retiring and being worried about the executive director thing. But yeah, there's a lot of pressure
Yeah.
on the
I
EDC
can-
right now. But I
they-
think NODC is doing everything they can to get the money, because eventually they're the grant recipient formally.
They did some hiring dependent on
Yeah,
that grant money coming through.
yeah.
And it's not surprising now that they have to find other options to make the EDC viable.
Yeah, they're talking more about memberships and again, this port idea coming up. So it's opportunities and problems
Yes.
coexist. Okay, so we're done with commissioner reports, consent agenda. Oh, I had one more thing and I don't want to take long with it, but I had a call with Mike and Will earlier today. And it was in looking through the consent agenda and seeing the financial report. I don't want to talk about it, but I just want to bring up the issue. I brought up the issue of when will be the time that we can pull broadband out of these financial reports, because here's the revenue from expenses from water and electric, and right now broadband is lumped in there. And the answer I got back from both Mike and Will is, oh, we can do it. And I think Will said, oh, I thought you already directed us to do it. So I just wanted to ask the three of you, are we interested in seeing broadband broken out? I am.
Yes.
Yes, I anticipated that was coming. so-
Okay. So anyway, you have our full support whenever, and what I heard from Will and Mike both was we need to kind of run it a couple times to make sure we're catching everything correctly and we don't get, numbers wrong. So appreciate you need to get it right, but please do it when you can.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna get in between Leo's ask and legal counsel's, what we talked about with the rates. But I think even beyond the rates, I think at some point, again, I asked for this about year and a half, 2 years ago, that we have somebody take a look at the business line and give us an overview of, how it's working, beyond, this is nothing against staff. This is just an outside set of eyes to take a look again to see, are we doing this in a way that's making sense? Are the dollars, going to add up the way we think? And that sort of thing. It's just something to keep on the radar that I think we should be thinking about down the road is to, again, I'm not big on always hiring consultants to do stuff, but I think it would pay to have another set of eyes. I know when I asked about this before, I think EES came up as a potential for like $10,000 to have them take a look at the business line, but we opted not to do it as a board. The vote was to not do. I think that's something we might want to revisit as we start to break these numbers out and the data starts coming in, we start signing people up, the revenues start to flow, that we should have a second or a third set of eyes looking at this. I won't call it an audit, but I think we do need to have someone look at our business model and decide if it's as efficient as it could be.
Well, I'm not quite ready to say we need to do that now, but I do think we need to get the business line numbers pulled out from electric.
No,
so
I'm
we
not dumping on all at
Yeah.
once. I'm saying there's a progression here as we start to do this. I think
Okay.
that's something we need to be thinking about.
Well, we eventually will have more eyes on it. Okay. Consent agenda. Do we have any changes to consent agenda? Commissioners, you okay with it? Can I have a motion to accept consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor of approving the consent agenda, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Aye. Consent agenda is approved. Old business, Gardner Aerial Fiber Construction Bid Award.
We received bids for the Gardner aerial fiber. This is to connect the main line from down at the bottom of Discovery Bay up to the customers in Gardner near the Clallam County line. It's mostly 288 count fiber. We bid it out. We got some surprising bids back. Canon, I can't remember the format they're in, but Canon, the company named Canon came back with a bid of
141,920.62.
Thank you. Sorry.
And it's Canon
they
Constructors.
They were low bid, and then quite a bit lower than our estimated engineer's estimate. We had the engineer review the bid. They're comfortable with Canon's number, so we'd like to move forward and award that bid to.
It's amazing. Yeah, when you get a bid that's like a third of what you thought it could be. All right. Do we have any questions on this project bid award? Seeing none, seeing nothing from the public. So we have a recommendation to approve a motion to authorize the general manager to award and enter into a contract with Canon Constructors for bid number 25BB0801 for the Gardner Aerial Construction Project in the amount of $141,920. $920.62, not including sales tax.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor of approving the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Aye, motion approved. Good job, team.
Thank you very much.
Next, we have electrical contractor pre-qualification, if that's
I'm gonna
Right.
real quick talk about the consolidated water plan, the county consolidated.
there you
water
go. Yeah,
plan.
sorry, there wasn't any materials in there for that, so I jumped over it.
We were hoping to get materials from the county, from the committee, and I'm on the committee and we
Okay.
didn't get our paperwork in soon enough. I still want to talk a little bit to the commissioners about where we are. And
And remind us what this is.
so this is the consolidated water plan for Jefferson County. And it tries to put county in a place that they can manage the water in Jefferson County, so the state doesn't manage the water.
Okay,
And that they look at water rights, they look at availability, they look at absolutely everything on the water side and tries to come up with a plan that the county can adopt. In the old plan that was done in 97, it talks about fire hydrants. It talks about a lot of the things we talk about here, but it puts it in a format that's countywide that everyone will follow. And we're a big part of this committee. And we're gonna have to pay a big share of the cost for this committee. When it first started to happen about a year ago, we were estimating approximately $80,000 for the PUD's part. We have received some documentation that the county is gonna request about $55,000 for the PUD. Which is less than what we assumed we would pay, but the issue is kind of, it's kind of based on number of meters. And they're splitting that between the number of meters between the PUD and the city. So that's some of the questions I had is some of the smaller water systems aren't paying. I have talked to the county and some of these water systems can't pay to come in to this. So
they don't have the resources.
they don't have the resources.
Yeah.
They're barely making it the way it is. So this is a place where on the consolidated water plan that we could use our taxing dollars. Everyone in the county pays a portion of that to us for taxes. And we would use those funds for to pay the portion that we have for the PUD. I think that's a fair way to come up with the cost where it's not borne strictly by our water users, because it does benefit everybody in the county. So,
Right. Okay.
We'll bring back an interlocal agreement. The city is possibly going to adopt their interlocal agreement next week. There've been some revisions going back and forth until they have theirs done. That's what we'll bring back to the commission. Joel's been aware of, the negotiations going back and forth, and that we are planning to use the taxing dollars for part of this.
Commissioners have any questions on this one?
So was there a deadline for them to have this submitted, that they be in the county to the state?
The county, you mean the full report?
Full report
No,
or plan or whatever it's called.
it's a plan. They want to push it through as soon as possible. The last plan was done in 97, and then it was updated, I believe, 10, 12 years later. So what we're working off now is really obsolete.
So just to be clear, this is a one-time fee cost to the utility, or are there ongoing costs as part of this plan for the utility?
I believe there'll be some additional costs come up because it is an engineered plan. HDR's the engineering firm. As we dive into some of these projects, we may have to spend a little bit more. I would still figure we're gonna be close to 80, but the ask for this first go around is approximately 55,000.
So where I'm kind of headed with this is the community out there, the PUD customers, are they going to ask, okay, and this is just semantics in the budget. Is there going to be a budget item moving forward related to this plan for HDR to work on these other systems that aren't PUD systems? Is that the way is this the way I understand? Am I hearing this right? Exactly. So that our customers aren't subsidizing systems that can't afford. This is where I'm going, afford to get into this plan. I want to make sure that we're not doing that.
Our customers will not, if the board agrees with our proposal to use the tax dollars are from everybody in Jefferson County, so.
Yeah.
Our ratepayers won't be paying it. And some of this, I'm still working with Joel to make sure that everything is kosher, but it would be through the tax dollars.
It'd literally be a budget thing. That'd be next, whatever year it is saying that.
That's where I was
tax
going with
money
it. For
is-
this year, we had a budget, and I forget how we, off the top of my head, how we split that 600,000 to whether it went to electric and water or electric and broadband. I can't remember how we
Portion
split.
went to water this year.
Okay.
And that's the portion
And-
we're recommending to use.
And the rest broadband.
Okay,
The rest broadband.
okay.
So just everybody's understanding as the budget for 2026 moves forward, if we change those balances in that property tax, that this could be why we're doing that.
And if we know of these projects sooner, that may be a way to say, okay, reallocate. But at this time, I don't know.
Right. And again, this plan, my understanding is it's a state requirement. If we don't do it, they're going to do it. If they do it, it's probably not going to be the way we want it done. And it sets us up when they have money available, we can better get it if we are a county that has an adopted water system plan.
Yeah, not all counties have it, but
Okay.
if you don't have it, you follow underneath the state plan versus the county plan.
Okay.
And
So this maintains local control.
it does, and I
Yeah.
do feel this is an important part of the PUD. We were a primary driver years ago when this happened.
Yeah.
And it is something that's important to us.
And it benefits us. Okay.
All right.
So no issues there. So then the electrical contractor pre-qual.
So this is just, for our procurement manual, we do require we keep a list of pre-qualified contractors. This, we did it, usually for beginning of the year, we do a mass list. This one came in a little bit later. There's a project that they're wanting, Riverline Power LLC is wanting to be able to bid on. They can't bid until they're on the list, so we're just bringing this now to the commissioners to seek a motion to get them to approve that the Riverline Power LLC be added to our list of qualified contractors.
Okay. Any questions from commissioners on this one? May I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to add Riverline Power LLC out of Ridgefield, Washington to the contractors to the District 2025 list of pre-qualified contractors for electrical facility construction.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Aye. That was kind of a tongue twister.
Yeah.
Okay, next we have the RUS 4-year work plan. All right.
So we've got over this. Every time we make changes, I am gonna review some changes that have to be added back in, and the reason why. Rough numbers, this is the $60 million work plan to make us compliant with the reliability and the resiliency that our community needs. It's a much needed map and way to borrow money. What we're asking for today, there's 2 documents that have to be signed for RUS to allow us to put this into their RD apply. We have a meeting on Thursday with the GFR to go over and make sure we're getting all the information in correctly. Once
if the board approves this, the other portion that we are looking to do, and it's in the agenda report, we need to start as soon as possible to work on some environmental work, because part of our request for loans can't be approved without the environmental. What we're looking at doing there, and I've talked and be working with Joel on this, is seeing if we can piggyback onto a lot of the work that Finley did for our broadband fiber. A lot of the fiber is in the same location that we have to do this work, and it makes it very economical to piggyback onto that. We've had some meetings. I feel bad for Joel. I'm putting him on the spot. Joel and I will be meeting over the next couple of days to make sure we can accomplish our goal here. But that's today, that's our goal. If there's no questions on those issues, there's one line item on the work summary plan, the 740C codes. If I can get those brought up, it would be code 302. Page
77 of the packet.
of the pack. Oh, I don't know if I printed this out of this packet or last packet.
Uh-oh.
Got a last packet.
Okay, I have the newer one too. I have so many notes.
What number are you?
It would be
300.
yeah, I need 302.
That is page 70.
Okay. So item 302 would be renamed existing line rebuild. And this would allow us to rebuild some lines to bigger conductors on the overhead line.
Okay.
And in the dollars amount, in 2026, it would be 150,000. In 27, it would be 150. In 28, it would be 100. And in 29, it would be 100,000.
So what's the total
You said?
line 302? Right now, it's just like
2.
Yeah, right now there's just 80,000 on that line. So you're saying it would be an increase of roughly how much?
$500,000.
Half a
over the
million.
4 years.
And I guess the question I have is, last time we went through this and it seemed like you were able to take out some stuff that then flowed through to the rate study. And have you looked at what is this going to have rate impacts?
So the tentative work we've done on the rates with this new plan, even including these new dollars, it has the potential to keep the rates definitely below 9, but around the 8%.
Okay.
And it allows us to become cash positive within the first 2 to 3 years, and therefore, and a lot of these changes we've talked about, the changes were primarily made because the priorities are lesser and we aren't going to be able to get to them if we're doing the rest of this construction. So we feel very comfortable that the projects that were removed are reasonable, and the projects that are left are needed. They are the major projects.
Reasonable in the sense that they don't impact us negatively on our reliability.
They're not gonna impact us on our reliability, and there are ways to move some money around once it's been approved through the RES loan program. We have to come back to the board. So if something would happen, which does in a 4-year work plan, we would just have to reallocate some funds to work in a different area if something out of this project happens.
Okay. Commissioner questions?
So is the application now in to RUS?
RUS has our draft documentation, and they've approved that. They were very pleased with ICP's work. What they need to move to the next steps is on page
219. There's a signature page that the GM and the president of the board has to sign. And then there's a statement that I have to sign on page 220 in the packet.
Okay.
If we sign those two today, on Thursday,
Oh, nice one.
oh, that was me, not Jose.
Nice try.
Eric Pryor and Mike Valari will meet and start the process. This does not mean we have to do the loan, but it gets us one step closer
Right.
so that we
Mhm.
are in the queue.
Okay.
We'll be authorized to do the work and spend the money if we want to. Well, I mean,
It
we're
allows
kind of
us to put
committed.
everything in. There'll still be another.
Yeah, we'll still have to be applying for the loan
Yeah.
and get stuff, but this
Okay.
gets us one step closer to being able to apply.
And you
for
have
it.
and you have a time requirement to get this done.
The time requirements, because I'm retiring and this is one
Yeah.
of the goals we're trying to get as far down
Yeah.
the road as we can.
But you want to get this signed like soon or today or whenever.
We're hoping to get it signed today.
Okay.
Because I can't go to the next step.
Right.
without-
Yep.
Really, this is board approval saying we've talked to you
Yep.
and you understand what we're trying to do.
Any more questions?
Just one, Jeff brought up the rate impact thing and you talked about that and you mentioned getting us, I'm gonna say reserves was what I thought I heard. You checked with FCS on what our projected revenues and all that are. And so you feel confident that our reserve levels, again, I know there's a lot can happen to draw on reserves, but we'll be meeting our compliance with our own reliability, our risk and financial policy, that our reserves will be at levels under this plan to meet our policy of 90 days cash.
With the changing to leave 25 out, that gives us another year to pick up revenues. And the moves we've made here are the best approach that FCS can come up with. Everything you've seen so far, this is a much better approach based on the dollar savings and moving things out. So yes, Dan.
Okay.
Okay. Any public comments on this one, Philip?
Yeah. Philip Stover, District 1. I was reading the report, and tables 6 and 7 talk about substation load management and loading. And they recap the January 2024 experience we had at Hastings substation, which is actually 122.5% over nameplate rating during the cold snap. My question is not to change anything on this, because I know this doesn't need to be changed, but for my own information, I would really like to know what was the January 2025, January, February, whatever the peak was this year on the Hastings substation. We had more customers, we had a different little feeder set up on 49th. We had perhaps some customers dropped off. So what was the net result? And we had little warmer temperatures. We didn't get down below 20 like we did a year ago.
Have we had any other incidents that even approach that?
No.
Yeah.
The loads, we took a little bit of load off and moved it to Dana Roberts because we made the changes there. Phil, we'll do a report for next meeting where we'll show the winter peaks for this year. The commissioners get the monthly peaks and that's what we're talking about. We could bring that up real quick, but I could give a better report than the snapshot the commissioners get every month. If the board.
I'd say wait and do it next time. Give a little more detail.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions? Not seeing any. So we've got here, staff recommends the board approve by motion to have the president and the board and the general manager, president of the board and the general manager sign the RUS required documents needed for the 4-year work plan. So do we have such a motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, motion and a second. All in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Aye. So it's approved. So I'm authorized to sign. Do you want me to sign something tonight? Or are we going to do it electronically or how are we going to do that?
Do you want to do it
electronically. I've got it with me, or we could print a copy.
I just printed a copy.
Okay, I'll just hang out. I'll hang out and sign after the meeting. Okay, and I think that was the end of our business, was it not? Is there anything else? My favorite April Fool's Day joke that I heard or saw was on Facebook, and it had me fooled for about 30 seconds. The Great Deer Roundup in Port Townsend. Everybody was supposed to meet and hold hands and walk across the city and end up herding the deer down to the ferry terminal, and a ferry had been reserved to haul all the deer to Whidbey Island. And I went hiking with a friend, and she's like, I can't believe this deer roundup you guys are gonna have. So that was funny. All right. Well, thanks everybody for being here, and have a happy anniversary to the PUD with our electric service. Now we're 12-year anniversary, so
Yep.
pretty cool. All right, we are adjourned.
Thanks, everybody.
It's 5:06.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Have a good night. We only need